thanks a lot, Daniela, for the invitation and for the amazing presentation. After reading this small portion, I think we can almost leave already. Everything is said. But no, we'll try to make this kind of specific so you can see a little bit what we're talking about. So we titled the lecture Personal Landscapes. And we kind of immediately thought of this drawing by Agnes Martin, where there's clearly a kind of an abstract idea of landscape. Everyone can see something different in this drawing. But clearly there are like individual traces, and each one of these traces is different from the other. They are unique, all of them. You can read the individualities, you can associate them, you can read columns, you can read these kind of horizontal lines, you can read the whole field and see it from far away as a kind of landscape. And this is a little bit how we see architectural concepts or architectural themes or small architectural formulations that we like to think that drive our projects. And this was a little bit the idea of the talk, no? I mean, we are going to talk about a number of architectural concepts, and through these concepts, we will introduce some of our projects. But this is quite different just to say that we're gonna talk about projects one by one, no? It's a bit different. And it's also important that, I mean, in this drawing, it's almost like countless traces or strokes, no? And for us, it's a little bit the same. Today, I mean, we are not gonna explain countless architectural concepts. We actually don't have so many, but we maybe will explain 6 of them or so, but it could have been more, it could have been less, and the way that we write these small concepts could have been different. And this is also something important. These are not kind of fundamental principles. So these are, it's 5 in the end. So these are the kind of 5 ideas or formulations that we're going to talk about today. And yeah, let's start with this one, delightful indeterminacy. You will see that mainly kind of each one of these principles will introduce one project, and in the end, the last one will go through different projects. But that doesn't mean that one projects come only from this idea. We're just using this kind of conceptualization to go through one project. But as you will see, these different concepts, they overlap one with the other, no? The idea of delightful indeterminacy, it kind of comes a little bit from this, from appreciating space for its concreteness, and sometimes we like, and also like to our students, we like to ask them, where does an architectural project start? Does it start with space? Does it start with program, with activity, with people? How does it start? How do you start an architectural project? This photo by Chema Madoz, it's quite beautiful because you cannot really tell if, where does human presence start or where does architecture start or finishes, no? I mean, is this a leg or is this a column? Is this a wall or it's just kind of another leg? They kind of feel the same, and it's a bit confusing. That's what we like about this photo, because we actually hate to think that architecture might start from a specific kind of program. Rather than programs, we like to think about activities. These small drawings by Alison and Peter Smithson kind of express the depth of program for us. So if you think of program, we would say don't think about, today we're here, I mean, this course is about interior design, no? So don't think about, I have to plan 2 bedrooms, and there's this kind of whatever average surface for 1 bedroom, which is 10 square meters, 1 bathroom. Don't think about programs as something that you would buy in a supermarket, like a shopping list, but think about activities. And if you think about activities, you can think about the origin of program, and it's about enjoying a situation that you live, and enjoying certain activities, and having kind of a delightful experience with a space, within space. No? And this can be the origin of a space, yes. But actually, we also like to think the other way around. This, we think, is valid, but we also like to think the other way around. Can we start mainly with space? Could architecture start also like coming from the experience of a space? That would mean that, as you can see, this is a plan of the Bank of England by John Soane, as you can see, like hundreds of years ago, built. And what we like of this plan, mainly, is that it's a building, but it feels like a small city. And every space is different. Every space is kind of unique. But still, there's a kind of loose sequence to it. And spaces don't respond exactly to programmatic functions, but they can be interpreted in different ways. They can be freely inhabited, mainly because they are very generous chambers. They have different access from different places and so on. No? So that's this title, or the title of this concept, it was Delightful Indeterminacy. That's what it wanted to mean. We want spaces to be indeterminate with regards to the function. We don't want spaces to be completely tight with a certain function. But that doesn't mean spaces have to be completely generic, completely repetitive, completely without qualities. All the opposite. We want spaces to be qualified, to be specific, to be unique, to have a unique experience. It's completely different. Sorry. It's completely different to be around this patio than to be within this kind of concave space, sheltered. These are different experiences, but you can freely inhabit it in each one of them. Sorry. So this project, you will see that actually we have, I don't know why we did that, but we have mainly focused, we are only showing small projects that we thought that kind of, you can kind of feel more close to. No? We're not showing today urban design or larger architectural projects, even though our way of thinking them is exactly the same. No? This is a refurbishment, an apartment refurbishment in Barcelona. So it's actually not too different from the program you're working with. No? This is a photo of how it looked before. You can see a very kind of standard way of living in Barcelona, a building from the 70s. Spaces would be rather small, and that's the living area. You can see these small doors. They lead to corridors, and many corridors, many doors. The kitchen is far away, it's closed because it responds to a functional way of programming the house. And then there are these kind of small bedrooms, and to get to the bedroom, you also have to cross the long corridor, no? But this photo already shows something a bit specific about this house, which is its awkward geometry, no? Which is something that you discover when you see the plan. So this is basically kind of a tradition. It's a very common way of organizing a building, no? There's the stairs, the core of the building here, and 2 apartments per floor. So here there would be another one, and our apartment is this one. No? And it's kind of a specific urban location with this corner. That's actually another building. And we are in a chaflan, like in a champla, let's say. That's not a champla, but it's this kind of same almost triangular situation. No? We have a very large facade facing south, which is, south is actually completely the way you see it. And then there's a small facade at the rear to this courtyard, which is open to a larger courtyard. No? So it's actually not so bad. It's not a bad orientation either, although clearly we have the good orientation on the south side. And this is a very long dividing wall where we cannot open at all. As you can see here, now we were seeing the photo of this space, we were seeing a photo of this space. You can see all these small rooms. It's actually here, it was like 4 bedrooms, although this one was kind for services. It couldn't work today as a proper room. And all this amount of corridors and doors to get to everywhere. No? So our first reaction was to, two things, no? One thing was to, okay, so luckily, all of these divisions are not structural. They are divisions that we can take out. That's something we can work with, and then we can try to understand better the space. And secondly, we had to achieve that a kind of sense of orientation. I mean, this is a triangular perimeter, and we like that. It's not like the way this is planned is like rectangular spaces are good ones, and you know, when they meet, you kind of have to accept this bad situation that you have like a bad space or something. That's the way this was kind of planned, and we wanted to see it the other way around. Sorry. Okay. That's the plan of the project already. So you can see also how, like, the way we draw the context, it also wants to explain the way we think the interior, no? So basically what we did is kind of emptying the whole plan and adding these 4 volumes, 2 large volumes, 2 small volumes, and kind of placing them like subtly or delicately, almost touching here the facade, but not still touching it. This one, larger one with the bathrooms and so on one side, and there's these 2 smaller ones. In the end, when you are in the open space, you can feel the whole triangular dimension perimeter of the house. And still, you have the sense of having all this sequence of different spaces. So at the same time, you feel it as a larger space and as a small one. It kind of here we were kind of, the spatial strategy, it kind of treats this as a kind of an urban space. It's a little bit like the reference that I was showing before, no? I mean, it's like treating it like a small city, if you want, even if it's kind of a small apartment, no? Then, I mean, we knew about that, but we kind of, so we knew that the main structure was, these columns, steel columns, and this is quite specific. I mean, it's not very common in the 70s in Barcelona, but we didn't know really how the ceiling was before demolition started, no? And it was an amazing surprise to discover this ceiling, and we had to adjust things of the project as you know, as it started, no? And we wanted, I mean, this is a Catalan ceiling, traditional Catalan vaults that you normally see in buildings that are built with load-bearing walls, and here it was very specific because this was on top of these kind of beams and steel beams and columns, no? So that's something we wanted to kind of keep as a quality. This drawing shows, like 3-dimensionally, how the space might look once it's emptied, and actually, I mean, this drawing intends to say that we wanted to enhance the feeling of this infrastructural space by treating it equally. And actually, there was, you know, this was related to all the installations of the apartment. And then, as a second step, we added these volumes, the volumes that I was saying before. But actually, these volumes, we added them in a different material. So it was really like placing these small buildings within the larger space. And these are actually made of light construction. It's wood. So actually, it was not so complicated or so difficult to imagine that maybe in future someone would come and take out these two small ones and place another one. So it had this sense of loose spatial arrangement that it can evolve over time and it can change. There's other things to it, like all these kind of diagonal views, all these very long spaces. I mean, you saw in the first photograph how it looked very small, even the largest space of the house. Whereas here, it's not only this diagonal space that crosses the whole house, and where you have this kind of clashing geometry, it's kind of our favorite space now. It's not like the bathroom or something like a problematic space. For us, it's a space of celebration. No? And it's not only this one, it's also this kind of long circulations along the facade. No? And as I was saying before, I mean, clearly this is a room. Clearly, we could say it's a bedroom, but it's more than that. I mean, there's one access to one side, then there's this whole other kind of connection to the rest of the house. So the way that this is inhabited, if you would see kids playing around, it's so different to a standard bedroom, no? Or this space, which is much more. I mean, you can see that this is clearly a flexible space that can be closed or open to the rest of the house, no? So yeah, it's giving this delightful sense of habitation, not forcing how to inhabit, but at the same time, giving specific qualities to each space. So these are the images that show a little bit everything I've been saying, this diagonal kind of aspect. And then these pictures that show a little bit all these clashes, no? These wood volumes that are placed underneath the structure as you see, and they're kind of, I mean, we enjoyed this awkward situation in which we don't touch the structure, but we go very close to it. No? It's like you are using the space you have, but still with a loose kind of sense. No? And then you can see how the interior of these volumes, they were also materialized in a way that you would feel like you're within something. No? I mean, that would be like being under the clouds, under all these Catalan vaults, and that would be like being within one of these buildings. No? This is the photo from within this bedroom, looking out. And then the larger space. The open space that would cross diagonally from one facade to the other, and still defining this sequence of areas, different areas within one larger space. All the circulation going along the facade, and some photograms of a video with it, where you can see how the space changes with these sliding doors. How you can also, as I was saying, walk along the facade, or even find these. We'll talk more about these kind of situations in the next minutes. And then all this construction, also how it was quite detailed. And even, let's say that small decisions like lighting would try also to emphasize all this architectural concept, having these indirect lights between the ceiling and, between this kind of furniture and the ceiling, emphasizing their individuality, no?
So, the second topic, threshold spatiality. So in our architecture, we like to work in these in-between spaces, in these thresholds, in these spaces that are not interior and that are not exterior, that we already saw it in the project that Pau explained, no? Also, what we like of this idea of thresholds is that thresholds can become something very thin or something very, very large, no? That can gradually go from one place to another, from an interior to an exterior, or to one interior to another interior. So this is an example of a traditional Mediterranean patio house, no? The Pompeian house, where mainly all these threshold spaces are the places inhabited all around these patios. We took the idea, the concept of these threshold spaces, kind of far away for the project that we are presenting now. This is a house we refurbished a couple of years ago. It's a summer house next to Tarragona. And this summer house was already existing, was from the 60s, and it was trying to be a typical patio house. The day was not very sunny, and it's good for us to use these images because it's more depressing, and then it's much better the day that we took the final photos. So as you can see, they were already suggesting as this architecture in between walls, creating these spaces with a specific purpose. So this example in here is the main image of the main garden of the house, where there was this wall that you will see that it became quite important for our project, that in this case just divided the courtyard into areas. But if we go to the following pages, we will see all these other spaces that we know as a traditional Mediterranean house, where there are these loggias, these exterior spaces that are interior but exterior, always with kind of trying to kind of take it as a funny understanding of the traditional Mediterranean architecture. No? Like, for example, all these elements that are here holding the roof, they are not holding anything at the beginning. Then at the end, yes, because with 30 years having it, at the end, what is flying from the roof, somehow it waits in here, no? But well, even the pillars, you can see these columns in here that you can see that is kind of not a typical column that you would do in the 60s, no? So if we continue, so on the exterior, it wanted to have this Mediterranean look, but on the interior, it was completely the opposite. No? The interior of this house was enclosed with no relationship to the exterior, just these windows. But you could understand that it was almost having like a house in the Swiss Alps, no? With this fireplace, with the materiality, with this really tight relationship from interior to exterior. But not only this, also the way it was organized as a typical apartment, just like using kind of the function of the spaces. So it was a long corridor divided from the living area. So this was a living area, then there was a door, and then there was a long corridor with some doors going to all the different bedrooms. And actually you can see that this is finishing to the toilet in there. So, so from here, we can see this image because then we do kind of the proposal in here, but this is important for us because as I mentioned before as kind of a spoiler, there was this wall in here that became very important for our future project and all the decisions that we decided to take. So this is a sketch of the plan, so where we are already suggesting here in red what is our proposal. So what we did at the beginning was to clean the house, to demolish some elements that were built after the original house. We demolished everything and we started from scratch. Actually, what the clients wanted from us was just a new garden. They didn't want anything inside the house, but we kind of engaged them because we saw a lot of the potential of it. So what we did in here is that using the idea of this wall that was dividing at the original point just a garden into different areas, we took this idea and we used it at the rest of the house. No, we used it. We expanded these walls. We connected these new walls to the perimeter of the house, creating a matrix of different rooms. Some rooms are interior. You don't know which ones. Some rooms are exterior. Some rooms are larger. Some rooms are smaller. Some rooms have light. Some not. No. So this was kind of the main idea of our project. And as you can see here, yes, in the proposal, all these walls that divided the space and created this new matrix of spaces are always related through the arches. So at the end, we took arches as the way to kind of relate all of these new rooms and old rooms. So now you can start understanding a bit more which rooms are more interior and exterior, but we were still working or still using the ambiguity of these spaces, these threshold spaces throughout the project, no? So as we could see before, this is the area that we could call it the living room, but this living room is living room, dining area, kitchen, and loggia. It's all the spaces in one space. You don't understand if it's interior or if it's exterior, no? And if we go through the corridor, no? So this corridor that we used to have before, so this corridor, we open the ends of the corridor, making them a corridor with no dead ends, no? Allocating some pivot doors at the end of them, and creating these spaces that could be a room, could be a study area, could be a playroom for the kids, whatever use. But then also, this is completely porous and open to the living space, no? So, as you can see, the project there are many ways to start a project, but in this case, this project started from something, a small element that we found there on the place, and we extended and expanded throughout the project. If we go through very quickly to the garden, so at the end what we also did was create different rooms in the garden. So there is kind of a big room that is more dedicated to a swimming pool. There is another one that is more dedicated maybe to a barbecue. There is this other one that's the entrance for the car, and then also that you can dry your clothes. So at the end, we kind of created this matrix of rooms with different kind of purposes and different kind of qualities, each of them. Sorry, with the microphone, not really good. So we can see some images of the project, no? So the topic that I'm explaining is threshold. So as you can see, now that you see the image of the reality of the project, so these thresholds can be very long, no? We come from outside, we go to interior, semi-exterior, a bit more exterior. So we try to do this in this project, always trying to create these long views and visual views throughout all these different rooms that were created. This is another one. This is, for example, from the corridor. So now, at the end of the corridor, you always have nature at the end of the corridor. You always have an opening at the end. Something very important for us was working on the windows and how we filled these voids that we were doing to the facade, no? To these arches. The way we wanted to do is that we wanted to create these openings that were to be completely openable somehow, but also allowing the users privacy, allowing the users to be cozy inside, to sleep inside and be comfortable, because you have your garden just next to it. So a bit of creating what we call like all these metal layers on it. So in here you can see this zoom of different metal layers that we created, no? Like this is the exterior shutter, that it's a shutter that it's metal shutter and it's sliding. And then we have all this door that is also made in steel, very thin elements. We always have to remember that it's a summer house, and So it's a bit of a different way to inhabit a place, but it's very nice because if you want, you can open the window completely when you want to sleep, and you close your shutters, and you have this cross ventilation crossing throughout your house, no? And having privacy. So we are now going to see some images of all these spaces, these thresholds, how we treat all these spaces around the patios, the different patios, and the different rooms. This is the loggia, so the loggia to enter, and it's kind of the direct relationship from the interior and exterior, but it really becomes part of the interior because we made all the windows kind of to disappear somehow. Or this image, this is the living room, and what we can see is that we did all this long beam that it used to be a load-bearing wall dividing living and kitchen, and suddenly what we do here is that it disappears and it creates this one space, always taking into account this space that becomes part of the interior or the exterior, whatever you want at that moment. And if we go a bit further, there are some details that we will explain on another of the topics today, but we work with some materiality that we use it throughout the different spaces. And some exterior views of the courtyard. And this is an image of the owners after a few months they sent us the photo, and the plants were starting to grow, and as you can see, also the nature is starting to inhabit the place.
So next kind of formulation, atmospheric pleasure. Usually, or a few years ago, I would say maybe 15 years ago or so, Peter Zumthor made very kind of famous the concept of atmospheres. It was pretty much related to the idea of having kind of sensorial pleasure in a space as an aesthetic experience, and we really like this idea. And we don't want to abandon that, but we like in the time we live, we also include another aspect to this idea of atmosphere or atmospheric pleasure, which is, it's kind of the same, but seeing it from another way, which is how you experience sensorially a nice space, and you feel good because it has a good temperature, it has a good humidity, and so on. Do you know what's you're not gonna know. Have you ever seen this kind of object in Spain? It's called, in Catalan it's called cantir, in Spanish it's called botijo. Anyone has ever seen it? It's kind of it's actually a clay made recipient, and it's porous, so it's not completely cooked, and it kind of has a magic. I mean, when I discovered it, I went crazy. Wow, what an example! Because it kind of has a magic thing to it, which is not magic; it's science. Which is that actually, this is a picture from the early 20th century, not a picture, a drawing, sorry, from the early 20th century. And you can see how it's a very hot day in summer in Madrid, and they are drinking from here, like really, I don't find the words in English, but they're really enjoying it, they really need it. No? And they didn't have a fridge to have a cold drink like we do. But there's a lot to learn from this kind of modest vernacular objects. And actually, a few years ago, it was actually scientifically demonstrated how these botijos, they actually perform as coolers, like a fridge. It's crazy, without electricity, just because of their materials and their spheric shape. So if you put water on them, actually they and you have this inside, you keep the temperature, but actually, because it has thermal inertia, but actually if you put it under the sun, when the sun hits, the water gets colder rather than hotter, and this is kind of crazy, and that's the way it works, and that's the proof. So this kind of thing, it's like, oh, how can we do architecture performing like that? Is this possible? I don't know, but that's what we're trying, and I think many people is trying to do that, and we also do. That's what we kind of were attempting to do in this project a little bit. We're showing now a small project, a very modest project, in fact, because it's part of a larger project that we are working on, which is a full renovation of a campsite and apartments, and it's kind of a vacation complex, quite large. But what we have already done here is mainly a small project here and a tiny project there, as two kind of pilot projects. Now we are starting the other parts. And now I'm basically showing this, which is the refurbishment of a bathroom pavilion. Yeah, exactly. Luckily, yeah. And imagine, after building this, he trusts us. It's crazy. No, so this was actually what he had, the client. These two existing service pavilion, we are seeing them from their rear side. Actually, this is right next, sorry, can you go back to the model very quickly? So this is right next to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea, close to Delta del Ebro. This was an old, road. Today, it's still a road, but it's not a speed road. So, it's not problematic to cross here or anything like that. And it's kind of a lucky place to be because you're really, really in front of the sea. It's a very long campsite. So everywhere you are, you have this kind of special relationship with the sea, no? And this is the rear side. So this is basically the wall here. And you can clearly see how this was a leftover space without any kind of purpose. And right in front of the bathroom pavilion, there were already like campsite parcels. No? And this shows kind of the state this was. Yeah, inside, outside, a bit tough. Yeah, go on, I'm not gonna. Sorry? Yeah, I don't think it, yeah, can you imagine? It was, the original was here, that's how they paid it. Yeah, no. So this is the plan of the two existing pavilions, and it's very kind of functional, the way this was planned, just to put all the toilets together. I think that some of you were saying, why the toilet? Yeah. They were using the pipes, So, of course, this was built in the 70s, so there was a need to renovate them just because they were, in really bad state. But then there were other needs from the client, like not having, the shower is not completely outside, but having them integrated within the toilet and so on. And then also, we needed more space in order to allocate, these kind of things, like the washing and everything. And also then, we wanted to avoid the fact that all this area here are already campsite. People sleep here, right here. So, and we could identify all this lost space. So our project was can we turn this upside down? So what we did is, actually, we don't need to demolish these buildings. We can actually be clever about it. We can transform them. It's cheaper. We have a structure. We can reuse it. And we might just add this very narrow bay, which is basically the new construction. And by, identifying that this building and that other building, they were not lining up, there was this small kind of protrusion. So with this strategy, just repeating it again, we could embrace a new garden. And again, create another one of these thresholds that we have been talking about, this kind of garden rooms. And this was important because it was kind of creating a garden room as a way of accessing service areas rather than giving directly to all these spaces, no? And yes, this is related to, I mean, sorry. Yeah, so this idea of the garden room, which is this space, together with all these kind of porches, pergolas, with climbing plants, all these spaces, all that could have been part of the previous section, no, with the threshold speciality that Maria explained, and because this was exactly the purpose, having this kind of threshold experience, but perhaps here it's more important for us to explain the importance of how all these kind of spaces, their humidity, their shadow, they are really created to give this sensorial, comfort and delight. And so architecture has, you can barely see it here. So we have lattices, we have these meshes, we have all the climbing plants. So there are different kinds of shadows. Air cross ventilation can cross the building because the building is porous. But it's not only porous because we have designed it with these openings, but there's also a material choice that relates to the whole idea of the potijo, which is the material we choose for the new construction, which is these ramped earth blocks. No? So here you can see a little bit what I was explaining, this kind of garden, this garden room. So these are the two pre-existing buildings that we kind of adjusted a little bit and added like small elements. And this bench, all the vegetation in the center, and how this feels a place with all the vegetation that you would go before going to the service areas. No? Places that are like time immemorial related to water, washing, all this kind of process of being related to water. No? And all that shadow space over there. No? It's really a place also like for, kids can play here. This is like a small, larger area with this kind of carpet. And then this material. As I was saying, these are ramped earth blocks, prefabricated. But basically, I don't know if you know this kind of material. This, Etruscs, I don't know how to say it in English, would build with this kind of material like 4,000 years ago. So it's really an old material, but we are using it with prefabricated blocks, which is more of a contemporary use again. No? And this material is basically earth compacted. It doesn't have cement. It has a bit of plaster. And this material, it's also porous. So it's a little bit like the vase we were seeing before, like the potijo. No? It's actually, the spaces here, it's not only because of the lattices. The material, it's porous, but at the same time, it's very heavy. So it has a lot of thermal inertia. So in the very hot summer days, you can imagine how all the pores that we were seeing, all these shadow spaces, they are very comfortable actually, because the building has a lot of weight, and at the same time, it's very porous. This is how it was built. You can see, no? It's quite large. It's 1 meter long, but you can see the weight of it, no? And because it's kind of doing something vernacular or ancient almost, but at the same time doing it with these prefabricated elements, it requires more control. So it's really like we had to draw each one of the elements that go in this facade. No, you can see all the variations, trying to optimize it, and we will talk later more about constructional principles. But here it was quite important. This building departs from this piece and how you put them together, and it's quite interesting that in the close-up photograph that you were seeing before, you could perfectly read all this kind of arrangement with the different blocks and how they are put together in a certain way that looks a little bit disordered, although it's not. And the reason for that was that when you see it from far away as a whole, you would see it as something monolithic. No? That's the way it looks here. It wouldn't have been the same with another arrangement. And these are some photographs that show a little bit everything I've been saying. The kids playing around, and all these, the pergola with the loggia, all this space. That's the space actually where you can wash. Sorry, go back 1 second. Yeah, where you can wash your dishes and other stuff. And also, like, again, we wanted to keep this space a kind of as an open, generous space. That's why all these elements, they were also added as, on top of these stainless steel legs as something very kind of light and thin. Yeah, truly, these are not actors or actresses. They are real people, just playing there, and that for us what explains the project. There's the garden, there's the little space with the two doors to get into one bathroom or the other, and it all becomes a kind of space of play and delight, and things that you would consider like, I have to go and wash my dishes, or things like that. They just become part of your holiday experience. It's something nice to come here and wash your dishes, wash the fish. You can just fish it over there, or you can buy it very, very, very fresh right next to here, and you can clean it here, and you cook it and you eat it, and that's your whole holiday experience. And we wanted that when you do that, you have this garden in front of you, you have the perfect temperature, you have the perfect air crossing the building, the perfect shadow, everything. And we like this photo because it shows kind of the dirty places of the campsite. I mean, the vans, not the vans, the camper vans, they come here and they use this space to throw the gray waters and to clean. And this is part of the project as well, no? With these kind of elements, these exterior showers, and this space here, where, I mean, you cannot see it here, but there's a small space to take care of your pets, no, dogs, or so. All this was part of the project. Some spaces that were more enclosed with these timber doors that you see. We'll talk about them later. And then the pre-existing building, where, I mean, you have been seeing right now just the small bay at the top, no, the new addition. But the pre-existing buildings, we also treated them. We exposed the existing structure, like in some areas, to create this kind of also lattices. And then inside, it was a little bit, again, the same kind of strategy. I mean, we wanted space to feel larger, so there are some, I mean, there's natural light at the ceiling. There's this kind of on one side, and actually on the other, there's these toilets. Now these are generous and large, and showers and so on. And then in the middle, we have this kind of furniture standing on stainless steel legs. And it's also kind of funny how you can see here this mirror. And as you can see, what you see here is real. It's behind the mirror, you have the same thing. So it's kind of playing with space, no? And this is the image really that explains this place, no? With these very big trees and this atmosphere that it creates, that you really sense it.
So next topic is ambiguity and virtuality. Maybe you think as virtuality of something technological, but for us, virtuality comes a bit from what Pau mentioned just before with the mirrors, no? But it's more like the way that we can change the perception of the spaces, the way as we as architects, designers, we can just change what it really exists, no? There is this image of a typical French cafe by Brassai, where you can see the use of mirrors, no? Where through this mirror you can see the face of the man, and through the other, the face of the woman, and completely creates another space, a new space. So for us, we have actually applied this on an early project we did. It was ephemeral installation in Girona in terms of floors, that it's a festival where you have to use flowers and it's spring, okay? So what we created was this black box, this black timber box, full of flowers, no? So you can see that these people are really enjoying the situation. They are taking photos, we love this photo. We love this photo. So they are taking photos, and it's like, what is happening here? They are understanding it, but from here, it's like, what is happening here? So what we tried to do in here was already modifying the reality, doing something different. So what happens here is that this box is full of flowers, but on the interior, it's actually full of mirrors, no? So the installation was called Narcisse Infinite. Narcisse is the typical flower of Girona, so Infinite Narcissus, so that if you go to the next one, so what you could see is that just with using mirrors, one hand could become 8 hands, no, in this case, and you could create a completely different perception of the space. So if we used it on an early project we did years ago as a ephemeral installation, we have also used it in other projects. There was this other slide. So apart from this virtuality or this way to modify the space, what we also add as another layer in here, it's kind of layers by the time, no? So this is, we did a trip to Syracuse some years ago before COVID, and what we can see in the Duomo is that where it used to be the original temple of Athena, they also allocated in the same place the Duomo with different architecture. So what you can see in this wall is that you can see the layers of the time. So the time has gone through this building. It exists, you can still see these columns, but then they added some layers inside, no, on top of it, as additional. So we also like to think as architecture as something like that, that it's something that with the time, it can be modified, it can be adapted, and it can be inhabited in different ways. So these two topics, that we kind of put them together. This is a project we finished not a long time ago, and it's a refurbishment of a very small apartment in Barcelona. We call it Palau, that it's called Palace in English, but it has nothing of a palace. It's a 55 square meters apartment, quite small. Actually, the original apartment was only this. No, it's kind of one of it's at the top level of an apartment building. And some years ago, the previous owners decided to extend the interior and occupy some of the amazing large terrace space they had and occupy it with an interior space. No? So what we can see, it's considering this as part of the interior, a 55 square meters apartment, where the uses are very, very tight. I mean, the space that they occupy are very tight. So we can see 2 small bedrooms, the entrance, a living, a very, very small kitchen, and then there's a space that has actually wonderful atmosphere, wonderful characteristics, wonderful. You feel you are there, and you feel like you are in a different world than in here, no? And you can see that the connection from here to here was just like the original window to go to the terrace, no? So they just kept it. Actually, they even had the shutters to close it, no? So these are some original images, so you can see this is the interior space. You can see that you can go a step up, because this used to be the original opening to the terrace. Then the kitchen, a very, very small kitchen. And then what we can see is this space that you can see that it has a lot of qualities. You feel comfortable in there. It's a very nice space, light, generous, but of course you could not appropriate this space if you were on the interior. So, well, there was a bit of a, we thought that it was the problem in that case, and it was where we focused our point. So what we decided to do as a first step was this, no? To open it up, to connect the spaces and to try to create what it used to be just like a living area, try to embrace all this space and create living, dining, and kitchen area. Even a pantry area is what we created in this space. So the layout of what we did is that we kind of avoided doing anything in here. The clients didn't allow us to do it.
Yeah, we didn't avoid. There was no money for it.
There was no money, yeah. Actually, they just wanted a new kitchen, and at the end, we did everything new. So from a new kitchen, we did the full refurbishment. So it was okay, we didn't do this, but at the end, what we managed to do this in here is that unify all these living, dining, kitchen space as what I was mentioning, but also adding some more layers. No? What we also had was this area as kind of a pantry, and we connected directly the interior to the outside, to the exterior where the laundry area is. No? So. In plan, this is what actually the main thing, no? This opening up of these interior spaces. So, so the topic of this chapter was ambiguity and virtuality. We will go through it in here, but maybe you are starting to understand why it's used, no? Suddenly, these two spaces that used to be two different spaces are just one space, and there is kind of a light well or something like an ambiguous space, an ambiguous line in here that divided one place and the other, no? So with this, can you go to the next one? With opening up this load-bearing wall and adding this T-shaped kind of threshold, and actually adding this material as a mirror, what it becomes is it goes farther away than just an opening, no? Just like creating this space. If you go previous first, yeah. So what we maintain in here is that we maintain the room, so the room is maintained. We have the ceiling, we have the cornice, we have the finishes of each room. Each of them has its finish, its original finish, but then with this opening, everything creates just one single space. Something important in this project as well is that we try to unify one materiality for the floor, one single materiality, doing some topography. So topographically continuous with the same material, creating a sofa in this case, and doing it like also getting a lot of light to the interior. That was actually one of the main purposes. And then what we already see here are some elements, some furniture. That is why this chapter is also called a bit of the time process. So we added this small furniture that could be here, but could be also moved away, no? Because it's not like a furniture enclosed that touches the floor. It's just on top of this tiptoes stainless steel furniture allocated in here. And trying to generate as a single space, as one single interior and character space. We can see then, so from the interior to the exterior, that we can see also the continuity of this furniture going also to the outside. And then the view from this great space, no? So that we can see the full kitchen, the relationship to the rest of the house, but also how this furniture can contain all the oven, the dishwasher, and all the elements. So this is actually what we really like of this project, no? The way that with just a single small element, everything is multiplied, and everything, we can really transform the space. We can really give it another point of view, another sense of the space. Even if you are from here or if you are moved, something different is going to happen in this space. Something important for this project was how we build this furniture. So this furniture are some elements, some stainless steel structure, that this stainless steel structure could have a lot of different things on top. So for example, it could have a marble top for the kitchen, or another kind of a stone, a green stone for the bathroom. It could have drawers, timber drawers. It could have stainless steel drawers. What we like of this, or what we think to like of this, is that with the time, with the years, it can be adaptable and it can be modified, and it has this flexibility. So as we can see now on this photo, this is kind of the process of how this modulation was thought and how it's modulated. This is the kitchen part. And how, just with this single structure, with this something very small and decisions that at some point we took, we can create some things like that. So this stainless steel structure can just like contain a stainless steel top, and this is next to the laundry. So in here behind this there is the washing machine, no? So, but also with the same structure, adding this green marble, you can also create, using the same concept, the same idea of furniture, we can create this bathroom top. Also adding here the layers of the virtuality of the mirrors and how you can increase the space and how you can create a different space. Or the full kitchen that it's made with different panel of woods and adding some of the dishwasher in this case, and with the marble tops and the marble front. And more examples, no? So how we can add these layers. And as the end up, so at the end, something else, because we will explain it later, but this furniture were made by the person that lives there, okay? So at the end, he learned a way to fabricate all this furniture, but then at the end, he also made a way to fabricate a wonderful frame for this new window facing amazing views of Barcelona. So he created actually this system in here with this glass element that it moves to here, it slides to here, and then it kind of pressures, and it's completely enclosed. Yeah, quite amazing. He's an engineer, so.
Okay, so now this last topic will go through different projects. That could have been the case of all the others, actually, but we just ended up doing the lecture this way. When the idea of tectonic gestures, we actually kept changing the title of this one until the last minute. It's really about this idea that there are certain materials, and for instance, the stone. This is a small detail of the Katsura Palace in Kyoto, one of the best buildings in Japan if you go there. And you can just use a stone the way it is and just use it architecturally to do a pavement. Or you can learn how to cut the stone. You don't cut it yourself, but you use cut stone to produce certain rack or like a carpet. Or you can use it like in different ways, no? And this idea of trying to understand that each material, it's kind of extracted, transformed, produced in certain ways, and this implies a certain way of putting it together, and by putting it together, you create space. So you kind of trace a relationship that starts with a material choice and unfolds constructional system and then space. And this is a very strong sequence for us. And this is just another example, a classic kind of example, Melnikov's house, which when you see it, you just might think of kind of a capricious, even if beautiful, but a capricious kind of shape for everything, for the house, for the windows, for everything. But then it changes just a little bit when you discover how it was built, and you realize that, indeed, this is just, if you want to do something circular, you just have to use the small pieces, small elements, and with that, it doesn't care. It's not more complicated when you build a wall, it's not more complicated actually to do it circularly. And indeed, if you do a wall linearly, it's going to fall. But if you do it circularly, just on its own, it's going to stand. So it's a clever wall. It's the best wall you can do. And if you're going to do a window in a wall with these small elements, you're going to have to build a lintel or a beam or something to do the opening. But this guy, he was clever. Just using the same element, brick by brick, he could create this shape for the windows. And this was actually, that's the origin of this shape. So it's not just capricious. It might also be. I mean, I love it that it's just something, just because it's beautiful. You can decide to do something just because it's beautiful, but it has this kind of depth too. And that's why it's great. And we're just going to show now these kind of close-ups of the different projects. We don't really achieve it completely, but we try to do that in our projects. No? These are drawings of how we intended to do all this. That's a project that Maria explained before. This house in Mont-Roig del Camp, where the terracotta tile, that was a decision to unify the whole different areas of the house. No? Each room was different, but there was always this kind of topography. And we used a large format outside, and the dimensions of everything outside would relate to this large format, and kind of defining the perimeter of each area, swimming pools, gardens. We would have this kind of perimeter, which is a traditional solution actually that helps to build better. It's just easier to build when you have these kind of elements. And then inside we would use these smaller terracotta tiles for the floor, changing the scale. They are also thinner, so it just have a different quality. And then if we had to build topographies or this kind of, almost as a kind of bench for the chimney, it would be just something that we would build by this kind of, putting one on top of the other, no? And that's how this results. This is actually an existing fireplace that we just kind of distorted and also adjusted and added this terrazzo finish on top that I'll just explain in a minute. But before that, how these terracotta topographies would also wrap up the walls of the bathrooms where we need to protect the bathrooms. And the height of this is related, of course, to the size of the tile itself, and everything departs from that. So space really comes from this material. No? That's a photo of when we were building it with samples. We designed, in addition to the terracotta material, there was all these elements made out of traditional terrazzo. And so that was basically, we used this material for all the places, the sinks, the top, the kitchen counters, and these kind of spaces where you could put something a bit hot. And that would unify also interior and exterior too. No? And even if we don't produce that, we have collaborated with Huguet, who's a producer in Mallorca. We try to understand how they work and how they encofrar, how do you say encofrar? How they mold this material, no? And it's always upside down, and then there's always these aggregates that make this element be solid and strong. And so when you cut it, you get all this. So we did not polish it. We didn't want it polished. So when you cut it, you get that. But actually on the top, it's this kind of smooth surface. So we kind of try to understand. Yeah, so if that would be polished, it would be, a very strong red, a very strong yellow. And so we deliberately just had it cut without polishing. But still you get the sense of the terrazzo. And again, it feels completely different to the top. So we're trying to play a little bit with the purpose. We're not moralists with this material stuff. we try to give it a purpose. You know? These are just details of the kitchen contours. And actually, all this exploration that I was just seeing, it actually came from another, from these tables we designed a few years ago, also with Huguet. And here we actually experimented a little bit more, no? So that's actually the same. You can see here the aggregates, but you can see also that the top has some like a relief, no? And that's because we kind of, so that's us actually trying to understand how they can work and what we can do, no? So yes, they use this kind of timber for formwork, and then we asked him to put the base with this rusted steel. That's why we got the texture that you just saw, no? And then you produce the element, which is a square when you produce it, and then you cut it in this round shape. And where we cut it, here we actually asked them to polish it, and that's why it comes this way, no? Whereas the top, it is very smooth, textured surface, no? So it's kind of trying to find a purpose for the material you're working with and trying to understand how it is produced.
So following up with the tectonics, this is a quarry next to Delta del Ebro, that is where our main project is, the one that Pau explained. And this is a quarry of a stone called Xenia stone, okay? So this quarry has given us a lot of things in regards to tectonics for all these projects that we are doing in Delta del Ebro. So what we have done based on the quarry, based on the stone, is that we have used the stone, in this case, in this project, and the one that Pau explained, we have used this stone in all the main possible ways that you can use the stone. The stone could be large slabs, used like large slabs somehow for some pavings. The stone can be also used as a small pieces that kind of break when you are cutting the slabs that are kind of distressed, that usually many people wouldn't use. What the stone also gives you is gravel. When you put it like you cut it more, and it's gravel. That actually in here we have like this gravel area on this next to the green area, and also what can also give you and actually this gravel, it's also used together with concrete in some of these pavings that we will now see more in detail. But also what can also give you kind of this sand that have some color, that we have used it somehow with these traditional renderings for these walls. So this project, it's kind of mainly all this material, all about Xenia stone. Going more a bit like close up with this, with the area that we were seeing. This is a project of one project that Pau explained on the model, that it was on the top, that there are some tennis courts that we refurbished, and then we created all these in-between spaces around these tennis courts and swimming pool area. Okay, so what we could see here are the different materiality that we explained, no? Like these stone slabs. In this case, Xenia stone can be in two colors, in beige and in gray. So in this case, creating kind of carpets for areas that we want the users to sit down, where we want the users to go through because there is a door, having always like kind of these carpets. We have also used the same, but in the blue, and this blue is always allocated where the water can go through, because in here when it rains, then there is a slope and the water goes through here. And we have used it also in these slabs that otherwise no one would use it. And in here, it's together with concrete, these are spaces that you have, you add gravel to the concrete, and in the process of curing the concrete, you just like put some water, and some of the concrete goes away, and suddenly you create kind of this sandy effect, or like this rustic effect of the pavement. And in addition, the fourth layer that I explained, that it's kind of this traditional render, that it's called escardallat in Spanish, well, in Catalan actually. in Spanish, I don't know the word, in the way they say it in Delta del Ebro, where you have this wall, and then what they do is that they kind of throw the material against the wall. No? So in here, together with the sand that you can get from the senior stone, you get this color, you get this materiality. In here, in this tennis area, that it's a project called Tennis Serramar. So in this area, there are some of these spaces where you can sit down and you can watch the people watching to playing tennis or whatever you want to do. Where we also added these benches. No? So the area of the bench, apart from having this rendered wall, there is also a place where you have a stone, and it's the place that you sit down. So as you can see, we are using the big slabs for spaces to sit, the spaces to rest. But also, in addition, apart from having just like regular handrails, because in here there is a change of height difference, quite different actually. We use this stainless steel element, using it as a handrail, but also as an armrest in this case. So going a bit farther than what our client asked us to do actually again. So what we saw in that project that it's next to this one are all those uses of the materiality. So in here we also took those senior stones, senior slabs, and allocated in here, or allocated them in the entrance to the main bathroom, the main toilets that Pau explained before, and also used in here with the concrete and gravel to create these intermediate spaces. But in here, apart from the senior stone, we added more elements. That it's actually what Pau explained, that it was all these rammed earth blocks. But also, we also added a new layer to this, the complexity of the project, that it was working with concrete, but this concrete has some color that wanted to take this color from all this senior stone. And this concrete, what we do in this concrete is that we also add gravel that it's quite thick, this gravel. And before pouring the concrete, the similar way that what we did here on the floors, someone comes here with water and wash it. No? So it's like a water-blasted concrete in this case. Always giving or trying to find this materiality of all the elements that we are doing in all this holiday complex. The concrete is used when we need to use it somehow. No? So Pau explained as before that we have this very, very long pavilion. So this long pavilion, when you have a wall, you need some kind of reinforcement at some point. So at the end, what we needed were some kind of reinforcements at the end of these walls. So what we did was to create these concrete walls with this materiality. And in addition, the way to work all the, going back to the rammed earth blocks, we kind of work on a layout to do a lattice, where we did kind of, well, that's order 4, order 7, there were like, I don't know, 7 or 8 types of orders that we studied, no? To kind of create, using as much as possible the elements in its original size, having as less as possible waste of the material, trying to create something that is regular, but it's also irregular in a way, no? So that's what we try to do in here. Also, what you can see here is this, I'm not sure if you see it from far, but what we see here is the junction from the walls that comes from the other side, no? So the interior wall, and you see here the edge of the walls. But then, coming from this lattice, what we also can see is that we did a similar thing here on the wooden doors, no? So these wooden doors, what we also, so in here it was just us deciding how it goes and trying to waste as less as possible material. What we did in here is that using CNC system, the system that you can cut materials using just like a program, no? Control numerical system, we designed this kind of layer, this kind of layout to create, actually it's a similar layout than our other lattice, no? So trying to embrace both ways to do a lattice, no? Like a monolithic lattice, just because of the weight of the material and avoiding waste, and then this CNC system, like this like more modern way to understand and to use a material.
Yeah, and continuing with this kind of digital production, we are not very, we're not so much digital ourselves. I mean, we kind of learned from this kind of vernacular way of building and how it's industrialized and so on, no? But we like to do that, no? As Maria was saying, so if you create a lattice digitally, what's the shape it should have? It's not going to be like if you create it with standard like wood thins. It has a completely different shape. And when we were doing this furniture for Palau Gomes, which is the project that Maria explained before, we had a little bit the same kind of debate. We actually designed this in a way, I mean, what you could see, that's what we designed in a way, but it could have been just welded somehow. But thanks to working next to the inhabitant, the engineer, we actually managed to develop this further, and we could actually, have a conversation and together develop this kind of system where nothing is welded, everything is bolted, and there's a whole system of things, of joints that connect, like if you want traditional Japanese wood construction, they are geometrically worked to join together, and then you bolt sometimes these screws strategically to reinforce that, and this works perfectly, no? And this might be very complicated to produce for a traditional I don't know how you say herrero, steel worker that works for us, but this was laser cut, so simple. Again, it's like the CNC cut. If you ask someone to do all these holes in a timber door, the carpenter is going to say, "Are you stupid?" But with the CNC, yes, we can do it. There's no problem. And again, that was the same. But now they like it. Yeah. So this was great. No, we could do. If you go next, I mean, these details, they would not look the same if it hadn't been for this kind of development, the laser cut, and how this is assembled together, no? And that's the beauty of this detail, how all these things come together, and again, how this small detail creates the whole system that is integrated in the space. No? Then, and this is the last small example we're showing, and even in furniture design, you can, we were just seeing furniture, but even in smaller furniture units, you can try to find the same kind of material purpose. And this is the design of a table, and it's deliberately, it's quite a long table. It has one leg. And this should be quite surprising. And this works because we are working with plywood, birch, and which is very solid, and we are working kind of in a Bauhausen way of putting planes together, like three-dimensionally. You have like a horizontal plane. We have one plane here that gives rigidity in this direction, and then the other plane that gives rigidity to this joint, but this is the only one that touches the floor. And this is hanging from the wall, and this is how you have like a longer than 2 meters table, just with one leg, no, and without more structure underneath. And this could also work because we would do this at the rear. So basically, the whole table, or even here, there's no screws at all. Nothing is bolted. Everything is just joined and glued by the carpenter without screws. And so we even did this thing at the back, no? And only here you had to have like like a bolt here, a connector, but that's the only thing. The rest, it's, the more weight you put here, the stronger it gets. So it's just using materials in a kind of clever way if you want, and making, if you want it, a bit poetic. that's how this little element would work, no? This little shelf. Or how the long table that you were seeing before, no? And how it touches the, I mean, you know, now you understand what this is doing. This is as much important as that to hold the table, no? Or all these joints, no? I mean, you see that on top because you know that it's the force of all this plane, and this is what makes all this work as a rigid joint all together, no? With one leg only hitting the floor. And that's it. Thank you very much. This one. Yeah.
Someone want to start?
It is high. It is high. So let's say that, can you hear well? Yeah. So let's say that if you just look at the wall, maybe it's like 10 times more expensive than the cheapest way you can build a wall, which is with concrete block and render finish. Just the wall. But if you look at the whole building, that would mean maybe 10-15% more expensive. So no, because we make this, so we say, okay, the whole building might be 10-15% more expensive, which is not so much, but then we can leave out other things maybe too. So
Maybe then you simplify some other things. You can simplify some
Yeah.
To compensate.
like installations.
But what we have to take into account here is that this is a long-term project somehow. You have seen just a pavilion, but then behind this is this camping that they have a way that they want to see the future of the camping, or the way to see their company somehow in relation to sustainability, local materials. So there is always another language and something behind it. So.
Yeah, there is a whole, I mean, we have actually maybe not mentioned the word sustainability until now, but this, so the client in this case, I mean, he was very interested also when we explained him that, you know, this is a material that you produce it just from earth, and it doesn't produce CO2 in the production, like, you know, in opposition to others like concrete or concrete blocks, or, you know, all that, and then all the other properties that we have been talking about that are more related to the quality of perception and temperature and all that, no? So yes, it's more expensive, but only if you look at it as a wall. When you think of the whole building, foundations, all the, I don't know, the toilets, the lighting, when you look at the whole picture, 10-15% more expensive can be something that the client can be persuaded to do if they understand what are they gaining. And again, this is a material that, you know, after 15 years it will only look better, and after 50 years it will only look better. You have this kind of, you know, ramped earth walls that look fantastic, like all around the Mediterranean. Like in Lleida, for instance, in Catalonia, is very traditional to have this kind of materials. Whereas if you do a concrete, you know, a concrete block standard, that then you have to paint it and so on. Just, I mean, after 10 years, you'll have to paint it again. You have to paint it again. I mean, Yeah, so
Yeah, and actually this building, there was like a big rains in the south of Catalonia in September. This was the camping that was more affected. This was the area that was more affected, and actually this camping. And from the buildings that we were looking around, that this space had 3 different buildings, the new one and the other 2. The other 2 have to be kind of repainted right now because they are just like white. But this one, it really looks like the first day, and it looks really, really good. So actually, I'm surprised of how good is this building, and after a bit more than a year being built, the state of it, it's great and it's wonderful. And as Pau was mentioning, I'm sure it will age really well. Well, we know it will age really well because it's already aging really well, and it's kind of melting to the surroundings and melting to the materials that we have around.
yeah, this is something for us very important, that we build with robust kind of materials. That doesn't mean it has to be stone or like heavy things, but I mean, it can be glass, it can be, I don't know, it can be wood, it can be other stuff, but it has to be like kind of slightly honest materials, that they are what they are. I mean, we don't like to build with you know, like kind
Materials
of
that
materials
want to imitate another material. It's not something that we feel comfortable, but because we really believe as a belief that using real materials, they age, but they can also adapt to the time. No, you can understand as age, or they can just be adapted to the time. So this is an example, but then also for wood. So we also try to always work with plywood if possible. Of course, if solid. Okay.
No way.
I don't know what to do now here.
Well,
Okay,
anyway,
let's have
yeah,
some
we
light.
can just go on with the conversation. Tiles. Yeah.
Have to be quite well done, but then you have to just finish it with this finished that kind of impermeable, make it impermeable,
Yeah,
not water resistant, water repellent. Yeah. Nice how you being barefoot in this apartment, in this house, is really, really amazing, because you just like feel these joints, and it's almost like being not on the beach, but I think it's a really, really nice feeling.
it's not
It's not continuous.
smooth,
It has like,
you know, it has this texture, and this is nice when you walk.
yeah,
on
actually
top,
using terracotta was kind of one of the main things that the clients ask us. We want terracotta floor. The clients are Swiss clients, and they told us we want terracotta floors. And from there, a lot of things happen, and we kind of developed terracotta
They
to,
said we
to
want
the end.
terracotta. We want terracotta in the garden, because we were only hired to do the garden, but we ended up doing the whole thing. Yeah. Sorry,
The terracotta, the bricks.
the ramped earth.
It's a brand that now, so what we used is a brand from Bajet,
Catalonia.
that it's in Lleida. It's a Catalan brand. And they have now, actually they are now being used for a lot of also larger buildings than that. And it's called Fet de Terra.
How is that spelled?
We will tell Daniela, and you can.
But it's a brand that they use this, that they do this prefabricated element.
But there are actually many companies.
Yeah, there are many
I
others.
mean,
know
this
this
is
because
this is
it's
a
a
good
local
one,
one.
but there's actually many companies that they produce prefabricated ramped earth blocks, and there's also like in situ ramped earth that you can also do.
It's what
in
we
many
want to do next. Let's see if we can do it.
like in many countries they do that. I mean, in Switzerland they do it, in different countries around the Mediterranean, and in China as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, in? Yeah, more and more. Actually, I was thinking now in China, I've seen examples. I mean, in the United States, there was, what's his name? Well, a very good architect that would do these houses in Arizona with ramped earth as well. And I mean, there's examples all around the world because, I mean, you produce it from earth and you have earth everywhere. So, yeah.
It was the first time actually like seeing it used, or maybe the explanation of the process that it goes through. And I think it's actually a very nice idea, genius, not only temperature-wise and everything else, especially for vacation residents, but also, as you said, it ages with time. It has a very authentic feeling to it, so I think it's an easy product to sell to like clients in general.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted the name to like further.
Like hecho de tierra in Catalan.
Catalan.
Actually, yeah, if he
No more
it was not
questions.
completely kind of super easy to this lecture because try to also adapt it in a way that because as we can see now from your question, as it's something basic in our architecture, but materiality, tectonics, it's something that we wanted to explain you because we think that this is something in our lecture.
And because we think that, like in interior design, because like in the have you ever worked in an office, interior design office? So generally, it's very client focused and it's very fit out focused as well. If you do shops or things like this, I mean, when we worked in London it was an architectural office, but I personally was working for a while in a project that was actually for Selfridges, which is basically in London, which is basically like a Corte Inglés here. And, when you are doing fit out, it's very difficult. You don't have, when we do architecture, we can say to the client, yeah, that's something technical, it's going to be more expensive and blah, blah, blah. But when you do fit out, everything goes right away to the cost. And why would you do this in wood? If I have this plastic, it looks like wood. Let's put this, it's gonna age better. So it's for us, it's very important to find these kind of reasons to fight against these fake materials. If you want to use plastic, we have no problem. Just do a plain pink wall or white or whatever, and it's fine. But if you do wood, you just have to accept that it's gonna age. And the good thing of wood is that if you scratch it, you have more wood behind. With a plastic floor, you scratch it and you have white. And then there's a little bit of water.
This is
and
an everyday fight.
Yeah, it's an
with the
everyday fight.
clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I think, for us, this is very important that, like, as interior designers, you kind of embrace this kind of, you have to be playful with materials and just enjoy, and there's no morals about it, but at the same time, trust the kind of honest use of materials. So this kind of dual. Yeah.
And we can persuade them. Have to.
If the
do
wallet
it
is
more
this-
and more and more.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so frustrating. Yeah, that's a constant fight. It's a constant fight. So yes, you have to be clever about, maybe this is a bit more expensive, but I find a way to do this slightly cheaper, so you balance it. And it's this kind of negotiation, and you will find out that you become sometimes a psychologist for your client, and you have
We
to.
don't earn as much as a psychologist.
Yeah. But yeah. That's the everyday. It's really annoying, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's why it's good to learn, really. Like, I mean, you should go and find a terracotta floor and walk without shoes on top of it and really experience why it's nice. And, yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Skills. Yeah, yeah.
We used it like in a normal flow.
Yeah, yeah.
And, and actually what we used as the pieces that we put are not floor pieces, are the skirting pieces, and those skirting pieces were the ones that we used for all the interior, so it was not even as a flooring piece.
Yeah, that's also something
So
nice.
we kind of also try to
You find something and you use it in a different way than what was expected, no?
and they know that this material also will old and will age, and
If you spill wine,
yes,
if you spill wine on it, you have to be very fast. But even if you're very fast, there might be some rest
stain,
there.
yeah.
But the good thing is that you will remember that you really enjoyed
can
that
also
day.
polish it.
You can polish it. You can clean it. It has a little bit of.
remember that day.
It will have a patina, you know, and that's why it's nice. And yes, it's very complicated to have clients to understand this. So ideal clients do understand. Like our clients in this case, they knew that and they like that. But that's not very common.
Actually, the first night that they spent there, they used a candle on the loggia area. They put a candle and to spend there the night, and then the day after, the candle, everything was kind of black all around, and then someone had to go there and polish it. But they just accepted it, you know, like I'm just inhabiting and I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah, you have to fight a lot. It's with
We have a friend that also an architect that he has told us many times that what he does is that he just like keeps the clients busy with the toilet, with the bathroom. Oh, decide the tiles, decide this, and then he can just like decide everything on the outside. So they just like keep busy with something that he's not going to take photos, and it's their problem, it's their toilet, and then he just do whatever he wants.
the problem
have
with
never
us.
done this
No,
yet.
because we also like the bathroom.
Yes, we
you know,
like
we
the
also like this. I mean, sometimes the bathroom can be an amazing space, like in some of these houses. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a fight.
But oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
so annoying. Yeah.
This is good and bad. It's good and bad. It's
Yeah.
both.
They know what's happening
Yeah.
in their house.
Yeah, but they are more educated as well. So
That's a
they
good
know
thing.
more things, which is good things, but then you always need to kind of explain them other things, no? To have like a balance and not to just imagine what they see on Pinterest or on Instagram.
Yeah, you
But
have to find. Yeah, no, you
All
have.
our clients have always had Instagram because
Yeah.
we are quite young, so we have always had this issue, no? That they have a lot of things on their head already.
You have to find your way of constructing an argument, like an argumentation, and because otherwise clients just get like references and images and Pinterest and stupid things and. it's like- Yeah. Yeah, that's that happens. Sometimes you have to do that, and it's about being smooth sometimes. Anyway, thank you very much.